Today I'm making alpha-gal friendly chocolate chip cookies. So I'm starting off by taking some of my bigger chocolate chunks and just slicing them up. I'm going to add these into the batter once I'm done. It's just something I've always done to make them a little more chocolatey. After I set those aside, I'm going to take 1 cup of plant-based butter. This has been softened. I set it out for about an hour. And I'm going to put it in my mixing bowl. I went ahead and used my KitchenAid mixer for this with the paddle attachment. This recipe calls for 1 cup of brown sugar, so I took 1 cup of my raw sugar, and now I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of molasses to my sugar. Mix that in there to make my brown sugar. I actually prefer the flavor of mixing up my own brown sugar and adding the molasses. I think it adds a great rich flavor to the cookies that you don't get with store-bought brown sugar. So we're going to add that into our butter, and we're going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of sugar as well. To that I added about a teaspoon of vanilla, and we're going to put that on the KitchenAid and beat that up until it's nice and creamy. While the butter is being mixed, a teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt to our flour. Just stir it up a little bit with a fork, and then I go ahead and dump it into my KitchenAid. I turn the KitchenAid on, and I'm going to mix it up until the dough kind of comes together. I'm going to add my 2 eggs while this is mixing up. I'm going to mix this up on a low or medium speed. I don't want it on a high speed. And once it's all mixed together, I scrape down my pan and I add in my 2 cups of chocolate chunks. I'm going to trade out my little rubber spatula for a wooden spoon just so I can get them mixed in there really well. When I bought these chocolate chunks at the store, they had regular chocolate chips and they had mini chocolate chips in this same brand of 100% chocolate. They are a little chalkier, but they melted down really well and they made a really good chocolate chip cookie. So once I get the chocolate chunks all mixed in and incorporated into the dough, I am going to go ahead and add my chocolate that I chopped up earlier. I just like that little bit of extra chocolate that melts throughout the cookie whenever you add shaved chocolate or chopped chocolate. I spray my cookie sheet with a little bit of cooking spray and put my parchment paper on top of it just to help it stick down. For the first batch, I went ahead and used an ice cream scoop because I wanted to see how this recipe did with the bigger cookies, and they turned out really well. I baked these larger cookies at 350 for about 14 minutes, and they turned out perfect. I finished off these larger ones with a little sea salt. This is the smaller cookie scoop, and I did these at 350 as well, but it only took about 8 minutes instead. And then I take them out to a wire rack so they can cool, and they ended up absolutely perfect as well. Hope you enjoy.